I'm here with Jonathan Stassen.
Hi.
All right. So,
I have a direction we could go if you like.
sure.
Something I'd be interested in talking about is I lead a Facebook group, a community for my hometown.
Right.
Yeah, and something that I have to deal with there a lot is approving and rejecting member requests, as well as approving and rejecting and even deleting content that people post.
Right.
Coming from like kind of a QA standpoint, I kind of see a little bit of like overlap with that in a way. But there's like a
Sure.
very human thing, and it's something that I honestly struggle with from time to time, and also like get some good chuckles about things people post. But do you moderate any communities at all, or
No.
you,
I
I think?
uh let me think. I think I've only really participated in like one forum,
Okay.
but never as really like a moderator. I think I was like an admin of it, but I don't think I ever actually like
Too much.
moderated any of it because it was such a
Yeah.
small group of people, and it was for like a game we were playing.
Oh yeah, that's super easy then.
Uh,
Yeah, I've got another friend who runs a Facebook group that's around like a car club or for Subarus,
mhm.
and he says the moderation there is super easy. He's got I forget how many members, 7,000 or so, and he's like it's easy because everyone's on the same page. They have a topic to like kind of orbit around.
Right.
Um, the most they get is like people maybe bashing builds or something like that at car mods,
Sure. Yeah.
posting a little
That's,
bit of marketing spam maybe at most, but. Um, So the Woodstack, that's my hometown, Woodstack, Illinois. The Facebook group I created there, I think I made it in 2015 on kind of a whim. I'd thought about it for like a year, and finally I just like, I don't know, probably like 1 or 2 in the morning. It's just like I'm just gonna make it and see what happens, and I'll think about it. And if nobody finds it, who cares?
right.
Um, and then to get the ball rolling, I started inviting my friends that were in the local area to it, and then just kind of like searched Facebook for events that were happening in the community and stuff like that, and just kind of scheduled those and posted them in there, kind of creating a space for people to find that. And it's not an exponential growth curve, but it's definitely going faster and faster at the growth rate.
Right. Yeah.
So just 2 months ago, I had 4,000 members in the group. Um, and then going back even further, November I think is when I hit 3,000, and we are just coming up on 5,000 right now. So it was about 300 new members a month, but now we're looking like quite a bit more than that. So what I've had to do is that doesn't scale super well for one person moderating that many people.
Yeah.
Uh, and if anyone that's like listening is a part of like a neighborhood group or for whatever that you kind of know the junk people post in there, everything from advertising to like weird conspiracy theories to
Sure.
neighbor bashing, and I can't believe that they're walking their dog on the sidewalk kind of stuff. It's like what? Okay. um,
Yeah.
in that's become quite a burden to moderate, especially at this growth rate. So I've built this like team of moderators, um, and I think I got 7 people if you include myself now, and they kind of all vary in their like passions around the group and their philosophies. So kind of like leading just the moderator group, I have to kind of like set up. I'm just talking a bunch. I'm sorry. Yeah,
No, that's fine.
but like I have to kind of like build out like what is good content versus not. And we have these community guidelines around like no advertising, no bashing neighbors or businesses and ranting
Mhm.
and building up like these just the culture, of both at the moderator level as well as the entire group.
Right.
Uh, yeah, and just on the daily, just like I said, rejecting content is tough, and I try to always speak with empathy whenever I reject content.
Sure.
Someone, like, complaining about the dog walking example on the sidewalk, like this makes absolutely no sense. It sounds crazy, but I always like approach it from being like, hey, unfortunately, we don't, allow this kind of content in the group currently. I love saying the word currently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, we find that it's best to actually approach these issues by, reaching out to the person directly, or reaching out to the authorities that are professionally trained in this. And I don't know, it kind of like it's like, oh, and I tried to sneak in a bit about like, I understand that you're bothered or frustrated by this, or maybe I'll say like, yeah, that does sound goofy, even if I disagree.
Right. Yes. Typical like customer service style talking.
Basically, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
maybe that's it. But yeah, it's interesting to try to get the moderators kind of on the same page with that. Um,
So
yeah,
what typically goes into the process of like selecting a moderator then?
it's a great question actually. What I I actually have this spreadsheet that I've created called the naughty and nice list. Um,
Mm,
so kind of do the three strike rule, kind of, but not super tight. It just I just kind of document those that are cussing out other members or like posting ads a lot. Kind of
right.
track that. But on the flip side, the nice side, I keep an eye for those that are posting great content, have the right kind of attitude or passion for Woodstock.
Yeah.
Uh, the ones that are reporting bad content or bad comments, or are like coming to the defense of the admins and moderators. Like someone who stood out immediately is someone who said like, "Hey, take it easy on the moderators. They're trying their best. They, and stuff like that." I'm like, "Hey, hello."
Yeah.
you know, um, just those that are like advocating and have a passion for the town. So I guess that's kind of what I look for. Then I reach out to them and see if they're interested at all. Kind of give them a sneak peek of what it's like. Like what the daily tasks are like, and when they're on board, I have a Facebook chat with everyone, and I invite them into that. Give them access to Google Drive, where I've got like the membership approval, rejection guidelines, and some of the content guidelines, as well as that naughty and nice list.
Mm,
So, yeah, and I just kind of onboard them and real quick, and I try to meet up with them as well. Obviously, not possible at the moment, given that we are in
right. Right. Right.
quarantine
Sure.
in at the time of this recording. But yeah, good question.
So what actually drove that initial want for a Facebook group?
There's a neighboring town, Crystal Lake, Illinois, and they had a Facebook group. Um, and I saw some good things happening there, and I was kind of like, I want that. How come there isn't one of those for Woodstock? Um, and that's I think 2014, if my timeline's correct in my mind. And I thought about it a bunch, and I didn't really want to lead it, so I was kind of hoping it would pop up.
Right.
Um, but when it didn't, like I mentioned, I just created it on a whim at whatever 1 or 2 in the morning, and just to see what would happen. Um,
Do you think there was a particular like need you had that not having
yeah,
it wasn't satisfying?
I was looking for events happenings in my hometown. Actually, I think that's the key of it. And I realized that Facebook's a great tool for it because you can just search Facebook events. It's not exactly the greatest search tool, but having like kind of a curated spot for it. My hope is
Right.
that everyone would be like, yeah, and just like post it all themselves. That's like happened never. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's the key that kind of started it all. Yeah, I like connecting people together as well. Um, I consider myself pretty uh, probably a realist, but an optimist. Happy, if you will,
Right.
uh, and believe that the best in people and stuff like that. That people are probably inherently good, or at least try to be good, at least in their definition of their mind.
Sure.
So with as the group grew, I realized I had that influence now over so many people. So now it's that little nudge of the needle that I can make in my hometown to inject positivity and to discourage negativity. That's like why ranting isn't permitted,
Right.
business or an individual, because like what good is that going to do? It's just going to get everyone frustrated and mad. And Facebook comments, let's be real, what are you going to solve
Mm,
there?
yeah.
So yeah, I think that's another motivator that kind of surfaced later on after the like I just wanted events motivation. Uh, yeah.
So do you use it to host your own like content, or do you actually like just have other people post things?
A lot of other people post at this point. For I haven't used the group too much for personal gain. I'm trying to still figure that out, what that means. The most that I've done is I run a dance community here. I teach swing dancing in my
Mm,
hometown. And so that's an event naturally. It's part of the community. So that is I can share in there pretty easily. I mean, I could violate all my rules. I could advertise in there and stuff like that if I wanted. I mean, I own and run the group, but I
right.
don't want to be that, double-faced, person either. So that's probably the most I've ever done. Most recently with the COVID-19, I spun up a website for listing restaurants that are open still, that are doing delivery and takeout
Okay.
on the work side. And so I built that and created it, and I've pushed that out to the Facebook group as well. Kind of just trying to help the community. And there's a text message. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. I probably am gonna have other noises and Facebook beeps and boops popping up on mine. So
Yeah, I mean that's a bunch about the group and that community that I lead there. Yeah.
is there any is there anything that's come out of it so far that you've like felt especially proud about?
Um, they're far and few. This specific first example. I don't want to per se own a monopoly on like this is the Woodstock group kind of thing.
Sure.
Uh, I'd rather lead with a bit of humility there and just be like, this is just here now. If there's better ones that spin up, great. Uh, but I think I'm most excited when I see other groups spin out off of it, and specifically around interests or different communities. So, like, there's a board gamers group that spun up out of it, Pokemon Go group, parent reading club. Um, there with the COVID-19, there's mask makers that are making and sewing masks,
Yeah.
and that really excites me. There's a sign language group that's trying to spin up as well. Um, yeah, it's just but small business Facebook group as well. I thought about creating the county Facebook group for all business owners to be in, but I was like, do I really want to be running another one of these?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, they're just like that. Those are examples, and that gets me really excited when I see that. Yeah.
Do you think that there's anything you take from like your current job that you apply towards your Facebook group
Oh, all the time, honestly.
managing?
All the time, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you and I both work at Sprout Social,
Right.
and Sprout Social has really a great culture, and I think it's fair to say that that culture, I mean, it is fantastic, like I said, but it actually impresses upon us, like, and I do see like leadership skills and kind of the empathy uh, and stuff like that, just being encouraged in our daily work, that it's coming all the way over here to the Woodstock group, certainly.
Right.
Uh, that I lead, and just like how to work well with other individuals, just that kind of practical practice that we get on the daily, um, open communication,
Yeah.
documentation. Honestly, like that, I mentioned the documents I have around, guidelines of approval and rejection of members. Um, and when I've onboarded a new moderator, they've been like, "Holy cow, this is so cool! This is so easy to understand. This is great!" Like that excites me, And I don't think I'd be doing those sort of things if it weren't for Sprout. Um, yeah.
Now, what about the inverse of that? Is there anything you've taken from the hosting of these those Facebook group that you've taken into your current role?
Absolutely, yeah. Going the other direction, a lot of leadership things, and a lot around managing people. I'm not a manager at Sprout, but just like, managing like team relationships and projects and whatnot.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, uh, just like just the dynamics around different humans. Um, well, I mentioned like deleting members' content and stuff like that, when it just doesn't align with the vision of the group. People naturally get offended by that because
Sure.
it's very personal when you delete something of theirs. And it's tough, and there's other moderation things you can do, like muting a member and outright blocking a member, turning on post approval, and these are all kind of rough. So I get people who come to me and are messaging me on Facebook who are just ranting, they're irate, and stuff like that. And that's where that empathy really comes in strongly. It's just like, yeah, sometimes I just want to ignore them. I'm like, all right, you're crazy. But I love taking the task of how do you go from someone being mad, and it's not always me doing these moderation things of like, muting a member temporarily. It could be any one of my moderators, but typically people reach out to me because I'm the admin of the group.
Right.
Fine, I don't mind taking that. But how do I take them from, being really mad and cussing me out to them excited and happy and thrilled to be part of the group? It's such it's so tricky. It's an art form almost.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's the same thing as I had mentioned before, like this happens unfortunately because of these reasons, and like I understand you're frustrated and those kind of like those ideas. Now, naturally at work, I don't run into that dramatic of a black and white, results thing, but how it relates is more around just the variety of people that you have to work with and that I'm talking to, and those being
Right.
excited about the group, those wanting to use it for advertising, those wanting to use it for politics, and or posting funny pictures and stuff like that. That's just off topic. How do you take this huge variety of people and try to align them or get them happy about something?
Mm-hmm.
So that said, in the workplace, naturally, there's a huge variety of people and different opinions and different thoughts and stuff like that. Um, and I'm no master at this at all, but certainly has given me great practice at that, of just you know trying to hear people out, and have empathy with them.
Yeah, I can totally see that happening. Gaining those sort of gaining that administrative voice and experience, and
Right.
yeah, I mean,
I've
n-
learned to try to lean with lean. Well, I tried to words. I'll come back. Here we go. Um, how to lead with humility, is
mhm.
what I say, is also actually something like you could lead in two different ways. I think maybe there's more. Who knows? For the moment, there's only two.
Mm.
There's leading by demanding, or just being like, this is how it is, get lost, or leading with humility. And I was reading a management book. I think it's Managing Humans, and it talked about how uh, when a manager, can be like, you messed up in this situation, just doesn't really resonate well,
Right.
always. It's because you get defensive and stuff easily, but instead, like, come to the same level more. And it gave an example of saying like, this wasn't the greatest of what happened here. You messed up. I've messed up in that way too, and it changes just everything. It feels like. Um, and that's something that a direct example, something that I've been trying to do more of. How to lead with empathy, not being like, I'm the admin, I'm the top honcho kind of thing. More of like, we're all in this together. I'm open to feedback. This is always going to change. Like maybe one day advertising is good for the group. Who knows? Like I don't know. Currently, it's been my philosophy of no, but I'm open to it. Like, let's talk about it. And
Right.
it's just a different mindset, Yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
I
Uh, do you think that there's, or what do you think is the reason that keeps you engaged with it?
Um, I haven't, and I do want to actually hand off the group probably to someone at some point. I mean, it's not sustainable for me to forever run this. Um, and my hope is that someone uh, kind of rises that's really interested and has the right um, the culture, the mindset for it, and maybe I just lead with them or something, kind of side by side. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what's currently keeping me in there is there's a need, and currently I feel I can satisfy it
Right.
the best that I can. I'm not perfect by any means, but yeah, I I've got my great team of moderators and whatnot. Um, but you need a leader of those leaders, and
Right.
um, perhaps one of them rises to it at some point, which would be fantastic. Um, but yeah, I've just been it's interesting to have found myself in this unique position of influence and leadership, and I don't know why. I don't know why this has happened, but here I am. So, I could ignore it or I could do the best that I can with it.
Sure.
Yeah. So, we've talked a lot about this Woodstock group. It's crazy.
Hey, there's always other things to dig into with a particular topic.
With leadership, I
Yeah.
mentioned the swing dance that I also lead. It's kind of similar there. I've got a group of leaders there. Um, I I wanted to have dancing in my hometown, and I was like, hey, let's make it happen. Invited a bunch of friends, found a bunch of people who were super passionate about it, said like, hey, help me make this thing a thing. And, in a sense, they don't even really need me anymore. Like I've built a team of leaders that I've pulled in and been like, hey, you help with this thing. You seem passionate about, photography, and you seem passionate about, the sound. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I've been having fun just empowering and building people up and giving people permission to try and do things and lead things. And it's funny because I don't feel like I have permission to be giving people permission to do things. Uh,
Mm.
but no one else is going to give anyone permission to whatever run sound and make a dance happen. So I guess I can do that. Like no one gave me permission to do this, but that's okay.
How do you challenge yourself, or do
Hmm.
you challenge yourself?
How do you mean, like just like in doing and creating new things and whatnot?
I mean, that's
I,
purely up to your interpretation of the question.
I
I That's also kind of a thing, is figuring out how people interpret the questions I ask.
That's great. So I'll take it this direction. Something I've been doing is a lot of experimenting, as I call it. And I guess you could say that Woodstock group is one experiment. The dance
Mhm.
group is another one that just started in fall of 2019.
Right.
Like, well, let's just throw it against the wall and see what happens. And some of the ideas like stick and work, and others don't. So basically, the way I've been challenging myself, and I don't know, it's probably not long-term healthy, or maybe it is. I've been saying yes to a lot of things.
Hmm.
When I see something, I'm like, sure, let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. Just today, I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw a friend and colleague of mine post about interviewing people on a podcast.
Ah.
Oh yeah, yeah, it was getting a
Hmm.
little meta. But I was like, hey, why not? I need to practice talking.
That's fair.
And it's something I can do to, help out. And that's something I guess I look for is when someone needs something, I'm like, yeah, I can swing in and help with that or try this. It the downside of that is it's exhausting, and I've certainly felt some um, burnout at times, from doing a lot. But I think the biggest reward for challenging myself and trying things is just looking back behind me. And this kind of analogy, I don't know, stuck with me is I have examples in my past of like what I'm leaving in my wake and stuff like that.
Right.
The positivity, and it's so encouraging, and by my wake, I mean like yeah, like a boat going through water and stuff like that. And there's like ripples that are like ripples of ripples.
Right.
So cool. I get so excited about it. So that just makes me want to go do more and try more and throw more things against the wall and then eventually clean up a spaghetti mess I threw against the wall. I don't know why I went to an analogy of spaghetti against a wall.
It's all right. Uh, do you feel like there is going to be a limit to that type of behavior?
There has been. Just around New Year's, I pruned some things that I'm working on and doing, and then started new ones, of course. But yeah, I think there is a limit, and there's going to be a time where I can't do as much as I am now, because right now I'm a single bachelor and I've got theoretically all the time in the world. That might not always be the case. I might have a family someday or something, and so in a sense, I'm just doing it to while I have the opportunity, and
Sure.
the time and capacity. Um, yeah, so I think there certainly is. Um, Maybe there'll be a point where one of these projects or ideas really takes hold, and it's something that I'm really excited about, and it consumes all the time. It consumes the whole pie chart.
Right. Do
uh,
you
yeah,
feel like in that moment that you'll be able to turn off the other things to be able to go full in on one activity?
I would like to hope so. If there's others that are, kind of second best or something like that, I might hand them off. So the Woodstock group might be one, where I hand it off to someone. Uh, the dance group I might hand off to someone. Uh, and I've been starting to try to prep projects that way to kind of be like those two, for instance, directly. I know that they consume a lot of time, and I've prepped them in a way that they should be sustainable outside of me. They aren't dependent on me long term. Um, so I would like to hope so. But it's just so rewarding to try new things. We'll have to see.
Right.
um, yeah.
Is there Are you looking forward to that moment, or are you dreading that moment when you need to make a decision?
Yes and yes.
Uh,
Is that fair? Yeah, I certainly strive simplicity where I can, but at the same time, the chaos of having many things is exhilarating and fun. So yes, I don't have a great answer for that because it hasn't come yet. Um, but maybe there'll be other ways for me to still say yes, but not be a tax on me. So, for instance, I don't do personal websites anymore for businesses or small businesses or anything like that.
right.
So I have people reaching out all the time for it. What I've done now is I've have friends that are working on becoming developers. I'm handing them off to other people. So here I am still
Mm,
having like a bit of an impact, but you know, finding a way to build up someone else and give them skills and stuff like that and give them practice. Wow. So I still get to say yes in a way, um, but in a different way, more of a multiplicative way because I'm building others up. And that might be what it ends up looking like a little bit. About 5 years ago, something I started saying yes to a lot more was travel.
mm,
Um, I wanted to travel, and I was, kind of, jealous of all those people you see out there that are traveling all over the place, and
yeah.
you know, doing their selfies or something, I guess. But you know, not that I want to do selfies, but then I realized I could just start saying yes to things in the same kind of vein as I was just saying a bit ago.
Right.
Um, so a friend will be like, hey, I want to go over to Europe or something like that. And I'm like, heck yeah, why not? And it's kind of fun because you never know, like even though it's a yes, um, you never know if it'll actually come to fruition, but you've moved it one step further, right? You've moved it forward and being like, hey, yeah, I'm open to this possibility. Let's, you know, see if the logistics work out. And sometimes they don't, sometimes they do. And when they do, it's hugely rewarding. Yeah, maybe that's more of a maybe. Like, yeah, maybe let's think about it. Let's try it.
Well, I mean, I would still say you're saying yes to it.
Sure.
You're of your side of the event, you're putting up a yes. So
Yeah.
then it's just about the rest of it falling into place.
It, it's funny because when I say yes, it's with a bit of reservation too, because you never know what, maybe it won't work out, on my side and stuff. But I try to make it like a yes, let's see if this would work and try to make it happen. And maybe that's it, is I like to say yes to push them to really think about it as a possibility. Because everyone says, I'd love to go to Chile and stuff like that or something. I don't know why I picked Chile, but uh, and I'm like, cool. How much are flights? Like when would you want to go? And like it just like pushing it that next step of critical thinking, what does that look like?
Yeah.
Um, here in my hometown, I had a friend, acquaintance rather, um, and we were talking, and he's like, I want to start a Woodstock podcast. And I'm like, okay, I have a microphone. Like I have time to start a podcast.
Yeah.
But but just enabling and being like, well, let's see what happens. Currently it's on pause because it's hard to meet in person
Right.
right now. But he's passionate about it, and he's recorded a couple pilot episodes, and now we've thought about like what the format would be a little bit and logistics around it. And even if I'm not a part of it long term, he has more skills for it and an idea and a template for it, to kind of continue pursuing it. So, yeah.
The last, I don't know, few years or so, I've started to just get tired of not seeing things happen. And so
Hmm.
any time where there isn't just like I try to be the person that just jumps into the thing being asked to just get it started, because
Yeah.
like I'm so tired of seeing things not happen, and so I'd rather be the one to like get in there and start doing it than
Yeah.
just not see anything come from it.
Yeah. I completely agree. That's kind of what I'm saying. What have you done that's been like that? Um,
This and
yeah. Cool.
uh I don't know, just things at work.
Yeah.
People say, "Hey, who wants to do this?" And then I try to leave a little bit of room for somebody
Yeah.
else to
Hmm.
throw their hand up. But if no one does, then I do it, because I mean, if I don't and nobody else wants to, then like,
Right.
is that then going to be is that going to be a positive thing or a negative thing? Uh, and most likely it's probably going to be negative if nobody
Yeah.
grabs it.
It's probably a
So
great idea, whatever it is. Yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, I definitely empathize with that. So in meetings, at work, I see those kind of things like, who'd like to lead this meeting, or who would like to run retro, or,
Hmm.
you know, who would like to spike out these stories or investigate this thing. And I try to hold back a bit, even if I'm excited about it, just to see who steps up and
Right.
lend others the opportunity. Um, yeah, and if it's my idea, I try to open up the doors to it as well and be like, is anyone else passionate about this and want to run with it?
Yeah, and I would say that most of the time it's just that beginning part that a lot of people are afraid of
Hmm.
jumping into. And so if you can like do that work to get it started and say, okay, this is all ready. Like, who wants to continue this through? I think more people would probably be willing to jump into something that's existing versus trying to start up a new thing.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. Probably, I one thought might be, uh, maybe a potential fear of failure.
Mhm.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's more just continuing with that is like putting your name on something and having it not work.
Mm.
Maybe you feel like I think there's also some people that think that somebody else would be better at it, so why should I
Ah,
do it? Uh, but like that, from my experience, that thinking doesn't get you anywhere because,
sure.
sure, there's lots of people good at other things. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Right. An example of that is that dance group. I mean, sure, I know how to swing dance. I don't know how to teach it, you know. I'm not even, I hardly call myself intermediate at the style of dance. Like, I'm an imposter 100%. Like, the first two times I led it, I was such a mess. I was like so stressed, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. How can I teach you guys this? Like,
Mm.
um, you know, and when I built the very first event, something that I tricked myself with, along the lines of, I figure someone else is better at this. I'm like, it's just a space for us to dance. All I really need to do is play music and teach the beginner bit. And I'm like, I can do the basic footwork, and maybe a turn or two. So if I call it the, beginner lesson, that I can do. Like I don't feel like I'm lying about or something like that and being like, come learn how to dance or something like that.
Right.
Like I'm no dance instructor, but yeah, I think you're definitely onto something there. Um, People probably think that there's someone much more well suited to do the thing. And they're probably not wrong always. Like there's probably a better dance instructor just in my town here. But the thing is they're not doing it, and they're not moving forward.
Yeah.
And maybe they feel like they're inadequate too, like
Yeah.
they don't know what they're doing with dance.
I mean, that's somebody that's good at something. There's a whole perspective on that. It's like, you're good compared to what.
Yeah,
So it's like I may not think that I'm good at whatever particular thing, but if I also think that I shouldn't do something because I'm not good at it, then like it's going to hold me back from like trying to see my fullest potential if I say I shouldn't do this.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of how I tricked myself with teaching the dance as well, as being like, I know it a little bit better, at least a little bit better than somebody who doesn't know it at all.
Sure.
Right? I
Yeah.
think another piece of it is the permission bit that I mentioned earlier. Like no one gave
Mm-hmm.
me permission to run that group or start up the dance group or anything like that, but hey, why not?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and like Facebook, you don't have to have permission to open up any of those things. Like
Yeah.
you you and 50 other people could have opened up the same exact thing, and like that's not bad. Is there anything that you're curious about?
Well, I mean, the answer is yes. I'm curious about many things. Um, that's probably why I have so many little hobbies.
As am I, but I don't have very many hobbies.
Dabble in many little things, everything from photography to film, video editing, violin, master of none, as they say. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I
Uh,
feel similar to that.
yeah.
There's a lot of things that I can do, and some things I can do okay, but I don't think there's really anything that I would say I'm a master at, unless you can be a master at being interested in lots of things.
Maybe. Why
Well,
not?
there you go.
Yeah. Omni interested. I don't know where I'm going with that. Um, I'm interested in how to motivate people and figuratively get them, up out of the chair to do things.
Hmm.
How to find something, some hope or dream that they have, and how to help them take that next step. And it's kind of along the same theme of what I've been talking about, I suppose. But like what makes them tick? Like what's the trigger, the tipping point, or something? What is the magic word, if there is one, or something like that, or the magic tool to hand someone that takes them from not doing something to doing the thing and being elated about it and being so excited that they just keep running.
Yeah.
Uh, 'Cause I don't know, maybe there's a bit of my pessimism side now coming out, is looking around at people. I kind of feel that there's this deep want to do things. They all wish that they did this or that, or um, were more productive or whatnot, or talk to people more, had more community, anything. And the thing is, we all have the power to do it, I think, just individually. If we just somehow are able to gather the motivation and or the permission or the movement, the momentum for it. And I'm curious if there probably is no magic formula for it at all, but what motivates people maybe?
Hmm.
Like could be an answer to what am I curious about right now? How do you build people up? How do you help them? Is there you know, from my perspective, a way that I can affect others in a positive way so that they can like kind of seek out their dreams and like do the things and then like a year or more look back and be like, wow, I'm doing the things and I'm happy, I'm excited, like I'm alive, like I'm doing things.
Right.
Um, and I could be completely wrong that, that's an observation of just people as a whole, that there's this kind of like sadness or like this impasse that's just kind of like this cloud or hovering over everyone, kind of like haunting them or something, of guilt that they haven't, and like, just shed it and forget it and like let's go do things. Like, so what, forgive yourself and move on, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, you know live in the now, as you hear people say, and just try things. um
Do you
yeah.
do you feel like you've always had that sense, or was there a time where you
um
were less so of that mindset?
Probably, yeah, definitely. Certainly back in college, I just kind of sat around in the dorm doing nothing. I think I started editing Wikipedia, and that was like me dabbling in things. I mean, as an introvert prior to my college years, um, and I took on an alias, Sir Nathan, if you ever see that around.
Mm-hmm.
That was such a trick when I was in college. I think I did that a little bit to kind of hide from the real me and be like, well, Sir Nathan's an extrovert. He does these things, he tries things, etc. And if it doesn't work, they'll blame Sir Nathan, and I'm out of here. Like, whatever, forget that alias.
Right.
Just kidding, kind of thing. And now it has become a personal brand. Like many communities know me as Sir Nathan, not at work or anything, but I mean, people are roughly aware of that nickname because they see it on my Facebook. But I don't understand it. Honestly, it was a thing I did there. I would just walk around and introduce myself as Sir Nathan everywhere when I was in school. So probably before that, I would say that was true. And then somewhere after college, I was out looking for my first job and kind of got stuck in a job. Very negative environment, very cynical. Started to invade my personality, the positivity that I had.
Mm.
And when I guess the day that it kind of clicked on me, I was like, shoot, I need to get out of here. Like, this isn't good. Like, I probably said, I feel like I said something that was so negative and just toxic and not at any individual or anything like that, but just such a thing that wasn't me. And I'm like, uh-oh, why did I say that? I said that because of where I'm working. And I realized I needed to get out of there. Actually messaged my sister and said like, wow, I've become so cynical. And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, shoot. That was a little wake-up call.
Yeah.
uh, love her, but that's so rude for her to say. But it was like, uh-oh. I'm glad she did. And that's why I got into programming, actually. So we're kind of transitioning into that question you like to ask of how I got into my career. Uh,
We inadvertently did.
that's okay. Uh, and so I went out and I had been programming and dabbling and making websites and whatnot, writing little scripts to automate my job at my workplace, be more efficient. And I was like, huh, I wonder if someone would hire me for programming. And to my surprise, a startup in Chicago did. Hired me as their first front end developer. I had no idea what I was doing. Self-taught myself all of uh, Backbone. I had also researched Ember and Angular and decided Backbone would leave me the least locked in
Mm.
and most free to build an app based off of the designs that I saw the designer providing. I'm going to come back to the question and go on a completely side tangent real quick.
That's all
One of my
right.
favorite moments working for that startup. That's a little bit hyperbole, but that's okay. Um, it was this one Skype call we had before we were all in the same office, and they were talking about all these grandiose ideas of things they wanted to build, and how the app would work. And I was like, uh-oh, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just making this up. So I like put Skype on mute. We didn't have the video on. And I said verbally out loud, I'm like, you guys know I don't know what I'm doing, right? And then I unmuted it and said, sounds great. It was probably the height of my imposter syndrome as a developer. Uh, and to my surprise, a lot of time and effort, I figured it out. A lot of reading articles and listening to podcasts and whatnot. Worked for them for a year and a half. They unfortunately folded, and then I came over to Sprout and been there for 5 years now. Got hired on as a Backbone developer because the app was originally written in Backbone at Sprout. But that transition probably happened, going back to the original question, around what kind of like sparked, I guess, this curiosity or change of attitude a little bit.
Mm.
I think that was the question, or at least how I'm answering it. Would be probably around college to sometime after that first job, uh, and realizing I didn't need to be stuck in that job, and picking myself up and trying something so scary of going to a startup when I didn't know how to program. And my father, I remember talking to him and being like, "Hey, I'm gonna go take this job with this startup. What do you think?" And he's like, "That's a stupid idea. Don't
Hmm.
you dare do that. You got a great paying job, etc.
Yeah.
How much are they gonna pay you and stuff like that? They're not gonna pay you anything, stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna take it anyway."
Yeah.
Which is another level of boldness, because I really respect his opinion and his thought. Thus, I was asking. So that was kind of tough going against my father's advice.
Hmm.
But I mean, it was huge. I mean, I learned so much in that job. I mean, they did fold. He was right. They failed to launch, but I did get paid for at least three-fourths of my time there. uh,
Well, you got paid in experience.
exactly, and I mean, it changed my career direction. It changed a lot. And then, I mean, Sprout's only been hugely positive in the direction that it's taken me.
Right.
Uh, and, certainly very grateful to Sprout Social for everything.
So, where do you think your career was headed prior to working where you are now?
So that the one job that I had left, so this was the first one I got out of college. That one, I was heading down the server administration kind of direction, networking, uh, sort of things. I was gonna go get Cisco certified. I actually came really close to that. At least the first one, CCNA. Never did do that. There's a regret. It's okay. I can pick it up at any time if I wanted. I have to do some studying, but yeah, that's probably the direction I was heading. But I realized it was way more social than that job really lent itself to.
Hmm.
And you can only fix an email server or a Outlook or fix a printer so many times before you're like, all right, this is exhausting.
Sure.
I need a lot more creativity in my workplace, and software development certainly falls into that category. It's just constant creativity and problem solving and hugely social, talking and planning and designing. It's night and day. It's beautiful. I love it. Um, I love every day I work.
Mm.
I hardly work in a way because I just love my job, and it might as well be a hobby
Yeah.
because it's so fun.
I definitely get that.
Yeah, I turn around and when I come home, I turn around and program some more because I love it so much.
Uh, so I guess we can get into some of the other questions. Uh, I guess you've kind of already alluded to some of this with our previous conversations, but do you have a creative outlet for you that kind of quote unquote recharges your batteries?
Yes, I've got several, and I've definitely alluded to a number of them. Programming is one of them. Love coming home and programming. The other daily one that I probably, or not daily one, occasional one I do is I'll play some Counter-Strike to kind of unwind.
Hmm.
I've always wanted to be good at playing that for some reason when I was back in high school, so now I can, I guess. I don't know. It's responsible, right? Um, I do gardening. I have a veggie garden. Got a flower garden as well. I do a lot of traveling and backpacking. Like to climb mountains with my father. I don't know if that's creative, but it's an outlet. I'm answering it more of like what are my outlets?
Sure.
Um, Social dancing, so swing dancing, salsa, um, any style of dancing is certainly an outlet as well. Um, I never ever saw myself dancing when I was younger.
Mm.
And once I was at this like retreat and they had like a little dancing class. I'm like, okay, let's go figure this out. I know gals like to dance. I just want to figure it out, see if I'm any good at it. And to my surprise, it was like not that bad. Maybe the teacher was really good. I was like, whoa, actually, I could maybe catch on to this. Um, because I always thought I had two left feet or something like that, as the
Sure.
cliche is. But just that one like lesson in class, I was like, okay, this is actually obtainable. And then I kind of built that up over time. I found friends that were passionate or excited to learn as well, and that became a huge outlet. Honestly, I love dancing. It probably has infinite depth to it, as a creative outlet. But you can get to, a basic understanding of dance fairly easily, like just a lesson or two, and you're like, whoa, I'm doing the thing. What? I thought I couldn't dance.
Yeah.
And so I love inspiring that moment. That's why I lead that dance as well. I love inspiring that in people because I mean now over the years I've taught people to kind of like on the side, one on one, never as a large dance group until recently. Um, I have people come up to me that I don't even recognize, and they're like, "Thank you for teaching me and grabbing me and seeing me on the side, corner of the dance floor, all shy and teaching me, and stuff like that because I've been dancing since." And I'm like, "Yay! I don't know who you are,
Hmm.
but like the passion and excitement that they have, I love. Like that's that kind of tipping thing again. Like if I can do that and like, hey, dance is obtainable. Here, let me show you. You already did the first step of like showing up at an event. Let me bring you to the next bit, a little bit, and show you that you can do it.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I've probably over the years now probably shown 300 to 400 different unique people, or helped them in dancing. It was just crazy. Other creative outlets, I don't know. Those are maybe the main ones. Photography is another one. Yeah.
Do you think there's do you think each of those outlets fulfill a different uh
Oh,
need
sure.
of yours?
Yeah, dancing is much more social, interpersonal, connecting with people. Photography, very introverted, um, thing. Programming at home, learning, self-learning, Um, yeah, I think they each probably do solves. I don't know if there's a whole category list of like different ways you need to be satisfied or whatnot. I've never really thought about that. Gardening is probably another one. That's more introverted time,
Yeah,
travel, travel and nature. I've never really thought about that.
I know there's definitely times where I'm uh de- depending on the outlets that I have available, there's this sense of needing to like make something or create something,
Sure.
uh, and that definitely leads into like the activities I choose to do when those needs aren't being fulfilled.
Yeah. Is cooking in that lines? Because I know you do some cooking and baking.
Oh no,
No, it's not in that line.
no, no.
Which one?
The only reason I cook or bake is I am uh typically I'm exposed to lots of videos of it, and then I end up wanting to just do it, and then eventually I just kind of stop.
Hmm.
It's a lot of just like initial momentum on a lot of those endeavors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I wish I've taken the time to learn to cook, but I haven't done that yet. It's probably on the list.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean I enjoy I I think my thing is more I enjoy making something that somebody else can enjoy
Mm,
than the actual like cooking. Like to me that's just like the steps required to get to the point where somebody can, you know, eat a thing and enjoy it.
is that is so the motivation is like showing your appreciation for someone kind of thing, or
Uh no.
no?
I think it's more just making people happy.
Yeah.
Bringing them something special that they can enjoy.
Mhm.
It's not. I don't think it's typically uh, leads with any sort of like, oh, I need to like give them something to show them a thing. It's
Sure.
more just like I want them to have something nice, so here is a thing.
Yeah. The veggie garden does that really well for me because as I grow the veggies, I always have way more than I'll ever need. So, give them to my grandmothers or fa friends and family, even my neighbor and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess it's just like giving a gift. Like
Yeah.
this, this makes me happy to be able to give things to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Was there more to your roles leading up to where you are now, or was that?
No, those are most of them. Yeah, it's just yeah, I worked for my father's office for a little bit doing some IT networking, and I still work for him and maintain a network there. So I guess that's it hasn't led to where I'm at, but on the IT infrastructure side, that's kind of like my little sandbox where I run a server, a Microsoft server.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, but other than that, it's been that network consulting firm that I work for, and then the startup prior to Sprout Social.
Mm-hmm.
That was a year and a half, and that startup. was a platform that was connecting nonprofits and like their supporters together. Kind of,
Mm.
yeah, kind of like a Facebook clone, but much more around the philanthropy of giving. But not just through money, but also like your time and your
Oh, so it's
effort.
like
Um,
a
yeah,
so it's like a Kickstarter or GoFundMe,
yeah,
but for like helping out instead of just
yeah,
giving money.
yeah, exactly. And you could quantify the amount of good that you've created through the different ways of
Mm.
giving, and not just money, because money is only
Interesting.
one way that you can support nonprofits.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, it never quite held on. It might rise from the ashes one day. The founder is still out there and definitely probably thinking of it. And I certainly hope to see it succeed someday. Yeah, there's other platforms out there that are kind of in that space now. Facebook's moved into it a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and there's I think causes.org or something like that as well. Um, yeah.
Uh, do you think there's any uh, difficulties that you encountered early on in your career? I mean, you spoke to the whole impostery syndrome or
Yeah,
not knowing what you are doing or feeling like you don't know what you're doing.
yeah.
Were there any others?
I mean, this is the most common one. You'll hear a lot of people talk about, of course.
Sure.
Other difficulties. Let's think for a minute. Changing technologies as a developer, that's always a taxing thing. And just like changing standards.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I used to be on the boat of like always move to the newest and greatest and upgrade all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I've started to push back on that over the years as well. If something's working, keep using it, and within reason. I mean, there's security concerns as well to consider with upgrading and changing technologies.
Right.
Uh, and yeah, I think that's been a challenge because there's always some new testing framework, new way to write CSS and styling. Um, and just different libraries being pulled in. Um, yeah, and I don't know. There's got to be a nice balance of like when to reach for a new tool or how to vet it, or just keep using the same thing. An example that we ran into was our routing library, kind of like watching the URLs change up in the browser.
Mm-hmm.
There's a piece of code called a routing library or a router that kind of listens to those changes and then changes what you see on the page. And there are many of them, and sometimes the community will get really excited about this newfangled one. And we almost pulled in this one at one point, and I remember providing pushback on it and being like, maybe we shouldn't, the one we have works great, and it's such a simple idea. Can't we continue to use this? And so we found this nice middle ground uh, that worked really well. And it's kind of funny because then the community actually we ran into some like, to my understanding, I didn't pay too close attention to it, but that one that we were really reaching for, really wanting at the time and tempted by, actually ran into community issues, and because it was so new and some I don't know deep-rooted issues inside it around performance or something or whatnot. And yeah, it's kind of interesting to see like a good example of like what it means to kind of not always reach for the newest and greatest thing.
Right.
Yeah, but as a challenge as a developer, just when we do switch those technologies and reach for something new to learn, and you typically have the other one in parallel still or the older one still there. So now you haven't actually switched, you're just using this new one in these areas that you're currently working on in the software. You have that old
Mm-hmm.
one still running over there. And there's always talk about deprecating it and removing it, but when do you ever have time to do that? So instead of creating a simpler world where you're like on this new fancy one that's super simple and shiny, you've got both. or all three, or four, or
Hmm.
eight. um, yeah, so there's got to be like a balance uh, and whatnot.
Where do you see yourself going? Like, do you see yourself continuing in like what your current role is, or do you see yourself moving to maybe a different type of role?
Um, I have been starting to entertain moving away from the individual contributor route, over towards more of, and you've kind of noticed this trend of what I've been talking about, kind of like the multiplicative impact and inspiring and building up people.
Mm-hmm.
Could be probably more in lines with management sort of things, or being whatnot. And I don't know if it's quite a great fit for me or not. It's something that I'm starting to think about more.
Right.
I get such a thrill of like helping grow people and mentor people, or just education and stuff. So maybe there's a direction, that direction as well, around just developer education. So when we do switch like libraries or something like that, or frameworks that we're using, it's like, here's the tools and resources to understand how we use it, or here's the tools and resources to understand that old corner where we still have that old library and whatnot.
Mm.
Just how to, uh, you know, build others up, and provide them with the resources that their job and their role is a delight, and they can work on making an impact. Yeah. With that, I've also been building tools, and you'll be familiar with what I'm talking about at Sprout, but I like building tools that help make certain tasks easier for developers
Right.
and save them time. Um, so finding pain points during their just daily work and being like, how do we eliminate that? How do we make this so simple you don't even need to worry about it, you know? Um, so I can see also a direction where instead of like working on product, if I were to stay the individual contributor kind of route, where
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so much building features, um, but instead I'm over building tooling that helps people build features.
Right.
So I have, yeah, the tools for those building the things. And then a completely different direction that's also an interest is around just product, and thinking about how customers use the app, and
Mm.
what things should we be building that make their job easier.
Right.
uh, which is in the same kind of vein as what I was just talking about around making developers' jobs easier. How do we make those who are using our product, and how do we make their lives a delight? Because this is their tool. We're building a very sophisticated tool to solve a set of problems for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes the tool doesn't fully work for them, or it gets in the way and stuff like that. And finding those frustrations and turning them into delight is exciting. I think it's really cool. That's why I've spent time like looking at performance, because it's such a um, it's weirdly not tangible frustration that uh, customers experience all the time on their daily, and it just builds up. Frustration isn't a thing that you experience a spike of it, but it diminishes over time. You're like, I guess I was frustrated. But if you have tons of points, 100 times in the last week where you were frustrated, that's actually even larger than one large frustration event.
Sure.
It's and it builds up resentment against an app. No different than a relationship in between two people. If you just have this little nagging all the time, you
Yep.
build up resentment. You know. Um, and it's very similar with a product or an application, and that's not great. So if I could find those and be like, hey, I want this to be a delight. So I can see a bit in that direction too. Yeah.
I think that would be a fun role to be in. Be able to like uh, spend your time observing what customers are doing and then being
Yeah.
able to act directly on those pain points, just
Yeah.
like in that sort of real time. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've got people thinking about that, so it's kind of been filled. But hey,
Yeah.
I think having a developer at that level would be so cool. And just at any company, would be fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Well, and that's kind of. I think you get into a tough spot because it's like, yeah, you can react to uh, those issues quickly, but you're then also not going through and able to assess what's the long term or what's the potential long term effect of those things, and like
mhm.
that can then potentially lead to a worse experience, or maybe you're only solving for that one unique scenario, but
Yeah.
the majority of everyone else work, a completely different way, and that change disrupts their uh, ability
Uh,
to do their thing.
you're saying like, yeah, you may fix one person's problem, but you may hurt a bunch of other people if you're
Right.
not careful. Yeah. Yeah, it's true, or just even focusing on just one person, is that really getting the bang for the buck, if you will?
Right.
Yeah, that's definitely pros and cons. Yeah.
Um. Well, I think we can probably end it there. Uh,
Yeah.
do you have any final
Um,
thoughts or?
yeah, if anyone wants to connect or chat with me or, has questions or anything like that, you're welcome to reach out to me. My website's jstassen.com. And then Darren can link to some of my other links on social and all that if you like.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'd be open to connecting and talking more with anyone.
Very cool. Well, thanks for the conversation.
Absolutely.
It was
I,
a joy.
I learned some things. It's great. It was a pleasure to chat.
That is, if nothing else, it's at least to either have a fun conversation or to learn something or both, whatever comes up.
I appreciate the questions, the open-ended ones, like,
Sure.
so
Cool. Well, thanks for the
yeah,
conversation. I will talk again if you're up for it.
yeah, I'd be open to it. So.
Sweet.